there. So I went there with an ulterior motive as a kid because, you know, hormones and that sort of thing. But I never really got into watching the sport.
Did you have brothers and sisters and stuff?
I have one brother, 5 sisters.
Wow, big family, huh?
Yeah, big Italian, Irish family.
And how did you get into the beauty pageant thing?
My mom entered me. We were a welfare family. My dad was always working jobs, janitor, side jobs, never really was a skilled laborer. So I had 3 sisters who were teenage moms, 5 siblings who were high school dropouts. And I love school. I love reading. And I said, I got to figure something out. My mom entered me in the pageant without telling me because of the possibility of a scholarship. So I'm at home. I get the phone call in the kitchen. I pick it up and they're, oh, we're from the Miss Illinois, you know, USA pageant and you've been selected. And I'm like, thought it was a joke. I just graduated high school and I didn't know what I was going to do and go to community college.
Did she have send a picture of you in?
He sent a picture and a bio. She filled out everything without me knowing, probably because if I didn't get selected, I'd never know. So that was it. So I wasn't a pageant girl. That wasn't my life. I was working. I was a waitress. I made hot dogs. I worked at a mini mart through high school. So
did you know Leroy Brown on the south side of Chicago?
I did.
The south side of Chicago, the baddest part of town, right? If you go there, you better just beware of a man named Leroy Brown.
So
Mark can't sing, so he's jealous now.
So what happened? What happened with the beauty pageant?
So I competed, learned as I went, didn't know anything. I didn't even know how to walk a runway. I started wearing high heels just so that I could figure out how to walk. I mean, I didn't have all that stuff. And I just modeled what other girls were doing. And my roommate at the hotel, she was the former Miss Teen Illinois. So she knew everything. Oh, how many pageants have you been in before? I'm like, none, you know? So she's like, I'll show you. She took me in the hallway, showed me how to like walk the runway, do all that kind of stuff. And I ended up in the top 25 out of 200 something, you know, girls. And that was it. But then it was like, okay, back to work. And then that's when I decided I was going to join the military to get an education.
So you went into the Air Force?
I did. I researched all the branches and I said, okay, I don't think I do well on a naval ship. I don't really want to be in the front lines as a Marine. It's so hardcore. And then finally, when I visited the recruiter for Army and Air Force guys, like, we got the best food. We got the best housing facilities. You'll want to go to the Air Force. So I took the exam and then.
But you did good as
you weren't a pilot though, right?
No, I was a ground pilot.
Oh, so you worked on the plane.
I was a heavy equipment operator. So I drove tractor trailers and buses and wreckers and tow trucks.
Wow. But you did good though, because you won Airman of the Year. That was like another beauty pageant, right?
No, there was an Air Force award.
Didn't you win it twice? She won two beauty pageants when she was in
the Air Force. I look like hell in the Air Force.
She also won a good conduct medal, so she was good too. She behaved.
How did
you never won a good conduct medal, did you?
How did you get on the police department?
So that was interesting because after I did my 4 years with the goal of education, I didn't know what I wanted to do, as most people don't know, you know, what do I do next? I knew I didn't want to stay in the military. So when I got out, I started to go to college. I needed a job and I started working private security because private security offered me the time to go to school in the day and work security at night. So when I just took one class on a whim, one criminal justice class, and I just was like, this is kind of neat. This is interesting. And then criminal profiling. And then I like one more serial killers. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Then I'm reading about Gacy and Dahmer, because that's like in the Chicago and Indiana area. And that was going on, you know, when I was growing up. So when I started reading that, I'm like, well, I think I'm going to change my degree. I'll get my associates in criminal justice. And I did a ride along with the Chicago Police Department at the time. And I was with the tactical unit. We went out, and during that night, I'm in the back seat. They responded to drive-by shooting. They made sure I was safe in the car. They got it roped off. They did their thing, but then they let me out of the car to see what was going on. And I got to see, because it was a DOA. It was a gangbanger who was shot in the head, laying in the street. And the way these police officers—
you even learned the lingo, man. It was a gangbanger shot in the head.
It's true. It's true. I mean, So the whole thing was, I had so much respect for these tactical guys, and I loved the way they handled the scene. And I thought that, gosh, you know, the adrenaline of it all, that was a defining moment that I said, not just get a, you know, pursue an associate's, let me go ahead and get hired. And then when I did finally make that decision, I ended up doing an internship at the police department for my degree, and then became a 911 dispatcher because I had to wait for the police exam. It was every 2 years. So I said, let me get my foot in the door, figure out the lingo, the call signs and all of that. And it was great. It was a good segue into that.
You know, in New York City, it's different. They, like everywhere else, they call it SWAT. In New York City, they call it emergency service. And there's like a little limerick that's that we have to learn, and it says, "When the public needs help, they call the police. When the police need help, they call ESU."
I love it. I love it. That sounds like a show right there.
It is a show.
Well, mine was officially called SRT. So, you know, we had a special response team.
Right.
Just for public knowledge, nobody's really going to understand. Well, what does
The
that
test
mean?
that you took, that was, how do you guys do it over in Chicago? You take like, so you worked in the suburb. Was that a different department you had to take a test for?
Yeah, so I took a test with that particular department because I became a 911 dispatcher there. And so then I waited and took the exam. And then while I was a 911 dispatcher, I was a year and a half into the job waiting for the police test to start. And then I went to the, you know, the academy, did the physical agility and did the testing, and then I got hired.
Hey, let me ask you a question. So while you're busy doing all these things and trying to become successful, what are your other brother and sisters doing, the ones that dropped out of high school?
Brother became a grave digger.
Oh, wow.
Does
that pay well?
No.
That's a union job. That's all right.
What is it? I mean, is it like $30 an hour?
No.
No?
No, and it's seasonal too, because they can't get into the ground in the winter, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially up north. Yeah.
Yeah. 3 sisters became they were waitresses, and another one of my sisters, the oldest sister, who was my role model, she was like a second mom to me. She actually raised her children and then decided to become a crossing guard, then went into traffic there's a special unit outside of the police that does all the traffic for the city. So special services, I forget the name of it right now, it'll come to me, but now she's actually the superintendent for traffic for the city of Chicago. So she worked her way up from boom, boom, boom.
All right, I was just being a dick with that question.
I have a lot of nieces and nephews.
I was just busting your chops anyway, because here you are, like going all these different places and doing all these things. What about your brothers? Well, they dropped out of high school, you know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they had different groups, but everybody's healthy and good. So
you're done with the military at this point? I lost track.
Yeah, I did military.
You were in the military. You went to didn't you go to Desert Storm?
I did. I was in during Desert Storm and then went overseas in Operation Desert Cleanup. And I was in Saudi Arabia for 90 days in the summer. And actually right before I became a police officer, they blew up the base that I was on at that time. So somebody went there with a huge tractor trailer, loaded it with bombs, detonated, and killed a whole bunch of US military and some allied forces.
Wow.
So
this was 1990, 1991?
1990.
1990. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were that old. We were all that old. To do a lot of things, you have to be around on this earth pretty long, right?
Yeah, you do.
I'm not calling you out on age or me either. I mean, obviously, I got this color hair. I didn't get it from being a teenager.
And I color mine, so
we can't do our hair. We can't get haircuts. So usually he dyes his hair blonde too.
Yeah.
But that's the grays came out now.
I'm coming up on a new clandestine haircut soon, unless the barber.
Yeah, with the program, you two. I colored mine myself for 20-something years. Right.
You're good at it though. I couldn't tell at all. I mean, that's perfect. I was doing a little bit of mine, but I just got gray hair on the side here, so I just let it go.
You know, like that song "Werewolves of London." I saw a werewolf with a pina colada at Trader Vic's. His hair was perfect.
Oh.
So let's get back to this. So you're in Chicago now. You're working in a suburb in Chicago. How do you get on the SWAT team?
So when I was a 911 dispatcher, the commander of the SWAT team, they would always go out to do their training and field exercises. And a lot of times they would need role players. So he asked me one day, you want to help out with the team? He's like, yeah, you had military experience, whatever. I said, sure. So I actually got out there and be a role player, damsel in distress, the victim, hostage, domestic violence. So here I am acting the part, as they're in all these different buildings and having no shoot scenarios. So I was getting to know the team while I was a 911 dispatcher. So then when a position opened up after 2 years on the job, I was still a rookie. I saw, they did a post in the department and I'm like, man, I would love this opportunity. And just prior to that, I became a firearms instructor and I was a master marksman. So I said, I want to do that. Wow. I ended up not being a sniper on the team, but I was on an entry team. However,
so you were the person that hit the door first?
Yes.
Your obvious girth and strength.
Yeah, number four, in our six. So boom, boom,
you had
boom.
The ram. You hit it with the ram.
In training, I did. I never needed to. You got a really, a stout fire plug of a guy that was, there.
You got to be strong to be the guy with the ram. That's for sure, right?
What are you good at shoot? I mean, obviously you're a service revolver, but you were in the military too. So yeah. When you were in the military too, were you also a
M16 training? So I never even had handgun training until I became a police officer.
But you were good with the M16 too?
I was decent with the M16, not good. I didn't know here's what happened. So while I was in the academy, I was shooting like, popcorn. My freaking rounds were all over the place. It was awful. So I went to the department and I said, hey, it's my, first time with a handgun. Is there any way that I could get some remedial stuff so that I can get up to par? And sure enough, they're like, yeah, we've got guys out here. You're one of our recruits. We'd like you to be able to shoot good. So they did. They took me out and I had some remedial training during the academy extra to kind of help me along. So that helped. So that when it was finally said and done, then all the department trainings, et cetera. And then I had my own gun. I had a Colt Cobra 38 and I ended up loving it. I loved it. So.
Are you still packing heat these days? You don't want the audience to know. It'll be a surprise.
It's funny.
Exactly, Bill.
The NYPD, you got to go. What is it? Twice a year, Bill?
Yeah.
And if you play your cards right, you can miss one of them. So you get people shooting, man. Oh, you got to see. So you know what I'm talking about? Groupings. We're talking about all over the place.
Yeah.
And Bill, you do that thing. And how about this? When somebody has a really good grouping, and they're right next to you, and you're annoyed by them. So what do? You just let one go on their.
You kill their target.
You let one go.
When I went to the range and I saw a guy with a hole in the middle of his target, I was ready to call a doctor, like a psychiatrist. Why is this guy got a grouping?
Yeah,
shooting, exactly. 20 days out of the month,
Oh, man.
You know who just signed on? We have a famous ESU detective. His name was Rick Martinez. He shot it out with Larry Davis years ago and saved the lives of 2 ESU officers. And for that was awarded the Medal of Valor. I just wanted to shout out to Rick Martinez.
Very nice. Much respect.
Hey, Rick. How you doing, buddy?
So you're in the SWAT team now, right?
Yes.
And how's that working out? Everybody accepts you. You're one of the guys.
Yeah. Here's the good news. Because I had known the guys in training when I was a role player and a dispatcher, you start to learn the guys and on the street and everything. And then as a police officer, they're backing me up on calls and that sort. They knew I had military training, and there were probably, there's always going to be a couple of sour eggs in there. So there were a couple, the guy that was miffed that I got it instead of him, the position. So
how big is this department that we're talking about?
What's that?
How big is this department that we're talking about?
Just under 200.
All right.
Yeah. So, yeah. So anyway, I felt great. I mean, I had camaraderie, and I tell people all the time the thing that I think kept me afloat and in good graces with the guys is a sense of humor, because they were funny. I thought they were funny. I grew up with a father who loved watching Benny Hill and MASH. And I mean, I would watch all these programs with him, and Three Stooges, and I had that sense of humor. It just, made me laugh. So I would give it right back to him.
If you're a cop without a sense of humor, you'll definitely not survive.
You're miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a defense mechanism a lot of times. We
Right.
see the worst of the worst, and even before we heard PTSD, the acronym. Even before we ever heard that, cops figured out that in order to break up what we're actually seeing right now, humor could be a defense mechanism. Subconsciously, we knew that, and it's something that's ingrained in us.
Right.
The other thing is alcohol can be a defense.
Yeah. Well, they go. The two of them go hand in hand.
The funniest thing I learned on midnight shift is the cops that would go out after shift at 7:30 in the morning to a closed bar, and go and play pool and hang out. And it was just like, it was a crazy.
You worked the midnight shift?
I worked the midnight shift for 4.5 years. Mm-hmm.
How did you?
That's a rough shift, man.
I always wonder about people that did that. Like,
it was crazy. It was, yeah.
How did you even adjust? I could never do
that. Blackout. And here's the crazy thing too, because I worked a 6-on 3-off rotation, and on midnights, then I would throw myself into a normal life, the 3 days off. So that's back. I'm like, you're tired. You're trying to. So I did that for 4.5 years. It was nice.
You're lucky you did that when you were young, because that's young people can get away with that. At my age right now,
that beats the shit out of you. That really kills your body. That shift,
Well, I think
used to forget which was the first tour coming back. I usually would miss the first tour. Oh, I thought it was the next day.
Right. I don't know how cops do the rotation where they're doing each shift every month.
We used to do the 9-squad chart. Yeah, that was rough. That was rough also.
Wow.
And how about narcotics? You worked in narcotics too?
Yeah, so I became a narcotics detective. That's when I left midnight shift and then got promoted to investigator. And that was me and my male partner. I give him a shout out. I call him Bosley. We were like Charlie's Angels and Bosley. Joke.
Were you doing B&B?
We're doing B&B.
Yeah, what are you doing buy and bust in narcotics?
Some of the. I mean, the undercovers mostly was that. We set up a couple of reverses as well, and then we did the search warrants. So that was great because not only was I part and privy to, working with informants and doing the undercovers, then I was part of the briefing with the SWAT team for us to do the entry and go into the houses and, having an idea of the complete layout of what we're going into, whether it be a business or a house and where things were hidden and that sort of thing.
This suburb that you worked in, though, that wasn't the suburb that you grew up in, was it?
No, I grew up in the city. I grew up in Chicago.
Okay. So you were good in the suburb. Like nobody noticed, nobody could ID you, right? Nobody knew you.
Correct. But I also did undercovers in the city too, because some of my cases went that way. Because I did some great.
But the city's big, you could.
It's big. It's really big. And I had wigs and I had costumes and.
Oh, I'd sell drugs to you any minute. If I had drugs right now, I'd offer. Not only would I wouldn't even. I'd offer them to you for free. So would you like to do some?
I can't take you to court. Then you have to have the exchange of money for drugs. Then it's like.
No, I'm not. I would never charge you. So, how many years did you do with? I
did undercover for just short of 2 years. Yeah, just short of 2 years. I was on SWAT for.
How many years did you do total on the police department?
7. So I had overlapping. So I was on SWAT while I was on midnights. So while I was on patrol, so we were on call out basis. It wasn't full-time SWAT. And then while I was a detective, I was also still on SWAT. So I had a full 5 years on SWAT, 2 years detective, 4.5 on the street.
And then you resigned from the department after that?
Then I left. Yeah. Then I left the department.
Where'd you go?
Here, how do you do this? Love took me away. Fell in love with a guy who was a Canadian. So I ended up moving to Canada. I moved to Montreal.
Oh, wow.
Really?
I know.
Was he a hockey player?
No, he played hockey, but he wasn't NHL, funny enough.
But you couldn't bring your guns there, right?
No, I had to sell. I ended up selling. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Does he say out? Let's get out.
I had an AR-15 that I won at a SWAT conference that I ended up selling to a chief of another department, and then I did end up selling.
So you went to chased love to Canada. What part of Canada?
Montreal.
And how'd you like that?
I liked it. I mean, it was something different. It was very French in Montreal. I also became a stepmom, instant stepmom to 3 kids.
Wow.
So that was a little wild. That was harder than being a cop. I'll tell
You
you.
speak French?
Something. I don't know you too much about you, Lisa, but one thing I know about you, when you go in, you go all in.
Right?
It's like, I want to get married, but I want 3 kids right away.
I want to marry a Canadian too and leave the U.S.
I watch a TV show, I'm going in the military. So what happened? So now you're in Montreal. You're probably in a nice house.
I'm in a beautiful house in Montreal, 3 kids, a mother-in-law. I'm learning to be domestic, learning how to raise kids, bedtime stories, cooking.
Are you making any collars over there? You making any arrests?
No, I'm getting tickets from the Canadian police for speeding. I'm like, this is bad. This is.
They don't give you courtesy, huh?
I had to learn how to drive over again. I had to get rid of the heavy foot.
That must have been weird.
What, $500 bucks.
Like giving up your whole everything that you worked hard over here for, and then going to Canada.
I know.
Things we do for love, right?
I know. We do.
I mean, shit, I wouldn't do. I don't think, like, I'm looking back. It's whatever I wanted to do, the acting, the comedy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it no matter what. Like, I was a police officer. I did that job because I had to have a job from, a respectable job. But I pursued my thing. There was nothing that was gonna make me quit that.
Nice.
There was nobody that would have taken me to Canada. I'm at that point in my life.
Cindy Crawford. I mean, no, I don't know.
What happened?
Pam Anderson couldn't have taken either. Pam Anderson is Canadian.
No, for me, it's just something I had to do. But I figured out what I wanted to do. So you're in Canada right now, and what happens now?
Yeah, so I'm in Canada, and then I grab all my police reports and a lot of the pictures from a lot of the jobs that I did, and I decided to write Undercover Angel. So I said, let me write about those experiences, what it was like being on police and military, and chapter after chapter, hand it to my husband, and he's like, you did that? So it was funny, because he didn't really know that part of my life. I met him at a seminar in Florida.
Yeah. Guys don't really care. When you look the way you do, guys don't really care what you did. Yeah, whatever. You want to marry me? Let's get married. He probably wasn't.
Yeah, let's move to Canada.
I was an undercover detective. Yeah. Really? Let's get married.
Oh my gosh.
So then what happened?
Yeah. So then I did that. Like, we traveled quite a bit because both of us were into personal growth. I was following Tony Robbins, reading the books, figuring out how to, be better in my life and, be better for others. I became a coach, did the life coach thing for a little while. Then I wrote my book.
Did you study with Tony Robbins?
What's that?
Did you study with him? Or
yeah, I studied. I actually traveled the world with him and been to his home in Fiji and became, on his leadership team and helped people.
How long did you study with him?
I'm sorry. I would have put you on my leadership team too. I'm Tony Robbins. You're traveling with me.
And his wife.
I know.
How long did you study with him?
When I was a cop, toward the end of my career, I read his book, Awaken the Giant Within, and I really liked it. So then I found out he was going to be at an event. I went to the event. I walked on fire. I'm like, this is amazing. I love all this stuff, anything that's like adventurous. So I started in 2001. And I was actually during 9/11, I was at a Tony Robbins seminar in Hawaii when 9/11 happened.
Wow.
And and then soon after that, 2003 is when I left law enforcement and moved to Canada and got married and wrote my book. And then that changed everything. You know how you talk about going in different careers. Once I did my book and then I was on book tour, then I started getting booked on Nancy Grace and shows.
What was the book again?
Undercover Angel.
Okay, Undercover Angel. And that was the story of your police career?
That was basically my memoir. So it was my military, police, and then personal life. No holds barred.
You had you mentioned in your book that you had an abusive husband, your first marriage, right?
Yeah. He was an alcoholic.
Was he a cop?
No, he was an alcoholic. He was a construction worker, and he followed me when I was in the military. He came out and lived right outside of Boston. I was in Bedford, Hanscom Air Force Base, lived in Woburn. No, I don't know if you're familiar with those areas, but he followed me out there. Then we got married, and then I found out the drinking. Drinking was normal at that age. You know, I'm 19, he's early 20s. Right. So I didn't think anything about it. It's alcoholism until I saw him flare up for little things, punching walls, wanting to fight people at the bar, you know. So I saw that, oh gosh, you know.
Like the way I reacted when you said you said you could teach me something. Maybe that's a drinking problem. I don't know.
Let me go back to this memoir for a second. Talk about the memoir.
Yeah.
You know, I like to ask the hard-hitting questions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'll just get it right out of the way. What's the difference between a memoir and a book?
Two things, nonfiction and fiction. So nonfiction is real, fiction's not. You joking?
I'm busting your chops.
Oh, people sometimes don't know what's nonfiction. Like, I like nonfiction. What's that?
I'm just busting your chops. Yeah. How'd you get on TV? How'd you start doing the TV
That
stuff?
was the book. So I did, when I was on my book tour, I started, doing book signings and stuff, and then hired somebody to get me booked on radio shows and programs like this. I remember the show Call the Cops with John Legato. That was one of my first shows, you know, and he was the FBI guy that was undercover as well when Joe Pistone from Donnie Brasco, you know.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, yeah. So Donnie Brasco actually endorsed my book. And he's a friend of mine now, but that was a cool experience. So just one thing led to another. You do the book tour, you start to be seen in the news, and next thing you know, you get a phone call. They flew me to New York to say, oh, we want you to be on the show, The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch. I went and did that show. And then after that, it just was like, boom. Then the calls started coming in. Nancy.
No, Lisa, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
Mark and I have 74 episodes of this. No one's fucking calling us to be on there. Is it because we don't look like you? Is that it? Why? Why aren't we getting calls?
I'm telling you put a wig on, you are in.
No one's calling us, right, Mark?
Right now.
Calls from Donnie Deutsch, from the Today Show, any of that shit? Me neither.
No, listen, you guys. I'm going to tell you what. The book, freaking Undercover Angel, the reason that it became so hot is because the editor had the wherewithal to say you need a subtitle. And the subtitle was the thing that hooked all the media from beauty queen to SWAT team. So people saw that and it's like, oh, that's interesting. They wouldn't have cared about, undercover or whatever. It was like, oh, beauty queen to SWAT team, rhymes. And they're like, how did that happen? So
hey, how'd you get the I Dream of Jeannie thing back there?
I met her. She was at this.
I love that thing. How many wishes do you get from that thing?
Follow her on Facebook. Barbara Eden. She's on Instagram too. She's so amazing. Oh my God.
I mean, Barbara Eden's got to be in her 80s, right?
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like 86.
She still looks good amazing. Or no?
Love her.
Does she still look good? Or she looks like an 86-year-old former hottie?
She looks amazing.
My mother's, you know what's funny that you say that? My mother was, I grew up with a hot mom. Like my mom is like you. She's beautiful. Blonde hair, green eyes. She's from Czechoslovakia. And, when I was growing up, it was a big pain in the ass having a hot mom.
Yeah.
Because with all my friends. And as we got older, people were always like looking at my mom and it bothered me.
Yeah.
And then now I see my friends that I grew up with and they're like, yo, how's your mom? And I'm like, she's doing great, man. Thanks for asking. I'm like, how's she look? And I'm like, yo, she's 8 years old, bro. How do you think she looks? She looks like an 80-year-old.
So your friends would come over to see your mother and not you, right?
Yeah.
Send a picture of Barbara Eden when they say, what does she look like now?
They're like, they're always like, yeah, but she used to look good. I'm like, yeah, I know, but she's 80 now. She's 80. Stop asking about her.
I got a big, hearty Sicilian mama. We look nothing alike. People are like, what? You know, they don't see the Italian in me at all. I'm half
You're
Italian.
Italian?
What's the other side?
My dad is Irish, English, Scottish.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Yeah,
That name Lockwood is like
English. Yeah.
English, yeah.
So let's talk about what's going on now. Since you're an expert, you know.
I'm not an expert. Come on.
Well, listen, nobody's an expert.
Opinion.
Right now.
One opinion.
Nobody's an expert right now because we don't know what the hell's going on. But
right.
Bill and I were talking about before we started the episode tonight about the town in Seattle that seems to ironically they took the police force out of that precinct.
Yes.
They took over the town, and because they didn't want any police, and then they put up their own security. How ironic is that? Like the first thing that you do is you put up your own security.
Hello. Hello.
And they're checking your ID before you get in.
Oh, there you go. Wow.
What a police state that is.
Oh my God.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I don't think we should get involved in that at all. I would let it go. I just let's see what happens. Maybe they'll be fine.
Use them as a test model of
What are we gonna do? Invade Seattle?
right.
So they can, you know, the cops can have their precinct back. We're supposed to work for them. If you don't want us there, we'll work over here.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality of it. You know what I'm saying? We work for the citizens. And if they can survive in there and they want to live in there.
Yeah, but it's the citizens aren't the ones that want that. These are
No.
taking over the precinct, taking over the town. And the government doesn't have the wherewithal to do anything about it because they're pieces of shit. Really.
So if they decided to sign a petition, all those people there, you think they're scared to do something like that? Like,
yeah. I mean, they're putting the bull on the store owners too. They're making them pay. It's almost like the mob is taking over the town.
All right. So then
What a time.
you got to have evidence of that, though, because you don't want another.
No, the federal government shouldn't do anything. Let Seattle take care of it.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
It's their city.
That was my point.
They don't want to take care of it. Every democratic city wants to let thugs take over.
That's my point. I don't think it's a federal thing. Let them take care of it.
Right, let them take care of it at the state level. You know.
I'm with you.
You know. What do you think about? They talk about defunding police. What an idea that is.
Asinine.
Who came up with this idea?
Just asinine.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. First of all, it's, you know, defunding the police. That's a term that came up during this thing. But the reality is the future is going to be privatizing police. That's what we're going towards, especially, I don't know about any other state. Everything I talk about is about New York. But we're already creating for our first zone, which is the congestion pricing zone. We're going to create a commercial zone. There's going to be zones. And I'm going to tell you something right now. What happened during these, the riots and the looting in New York City scares the shit out of the average person there, the average millionaire.
The average millionaire.
They don't want to be living, you know, and then like hear glasses breaking and somebody because they're thinking somebody's going to overtake the doorman.
Right.
Get up to their apartment. Everything is going towards privatizing police. We downsized corrections already.
This is what I'm yeah, you bring up a good point, because look at what happened when they privatized, you know, the jails and the penitentiaries and the corrections and all of that. What happened is they felt that now legislation and Congress was trying to have more sanctions for the bad guys so they could fill them up because it was a private industry.
Right, it was a profit-making thing.
It's going to go crazy. You privatize that, it's going to go crazy. They're going to want more than any other cop had ever wanted.
Well, Lisa, it's the same thing. It's almost the same thing as when you work in the public sector as an employee, you have a lot of rights. When you work in the private sector, they'll chop your head off without even telling you. You have no rights. They'll do whatever they want, the private sector. And they're not held to as high a standard as the public sector. The private sector, you know.
To me, I think if you look all around the country, well, in the blue states, what they're looking to do is rid themselves of the burden of municipalities. It's costly to their budget. If you look at California, for example, they don't do anything really anymore for the homeless. They just don't bother them. They let them
do whatever they want.
and they're all, you know, they're all over the place.
Right.
If you look at New York, the bail reform. The bail reform basically means, you know, that time that, you know, waiting for your trial or for you to plead, you're going to be out in the street. So this way we saved the spot at Rikers Island, which was our jail, where you'd stay if you couldn't make bail until your trial. So we're downsizing the corrections department. The next thing we got to do is downsize the police department. How do we do that? We do that basically, you know, people are they're going to hire their own security. They're going to, you know, we're going to have more gated communities, semi-gated communities. New York City is going to be broken up into zones.
Right.
It's going to be like a vigilante system. That's what it's going to be like.
Well, it's going to be a lot more policing, though. There's going to be a lot more security out there. We're talking about breaking up into zones from 96th Street to 42nd Street, east and west. They're going to pay $25 a month, and it's going to go into a thing to hire their own private security.
And then the problem is who's not going to be protected? The inner city, the poor areas.
Well, they'll be protected. They'll still have the local NYPD, but
since this has been going on, last weekend in Chicago, they had 80-something shootings and 19 murders over the weekend.
Right.
New York City, the homicide rate has gone up over 100%, and the other crimes have also gone up over 100% because they can't concentrate on crimes when they're policing a riot.
Exactly.
So it's unbelievable. And then you get idiots saying, let's defund the police. And actual politicians that work for New York City are saying this. I don't know where they get these people from, where they were the last 30 years when crime dropped to the lowest level it's ever been in New York City. I don't know where they were living, you know. They just ignored it, I guess. You know?
I was going through this over my head a lot. And there's this guy on Twitter I follow. His name is Hotep Jesus.
Okay.
It's you can't see it. It's called. He said defund police means privatize police. Now guess who ain't got the money to pay for protection and who does?
Right.
And this was, you know, I had this all worked out in my head before. I just see that's the future. You know, I don't think there's going to be any more crime than there is now. I think there'll be 2 or 3 times more patrol out there with private security. I think you're gonna have to, you know, live in a certain area or work in go to school in a certain area, have some business in that area, in that zone for you to get in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that everybody's going to have their own, you're going to pay out of pocket. Whoever can afford it.
A detective that I used to work with years ago, I worked with him when he was a police officer, Sam DeFiglia. He just told me he was working in the Hamptons security because they're concerned about the riots. So there you go. That's what you're talking about. The Hamptons is like, you know, 70, 80 miles from New York City, 90 miles.
Well, look at Nassau and Suffolk County, for example. That's Long Island over here, right? We have a Nassau County Police Department. We got a Suffolk County. But then inside those two counties, we also have Garden City Police Department, many other smaller police departments. They hire their own security. They hire their own police because they can afford to.
Right.
They pay an extra tax on top of the tax that they're paying to
the municipalities,
the county that they live in.
Right.
And that's the same exact thing that's going to happen in New York. People who have the money are going to pay for extra security, and they're going to get it. And you know, when somebody gets arrested, they're going to have to call the NYPD or bring them to the NYPD.
Yes.
But I have a feeling like they're going to downsize.
Now, my biggest concern right now, obviously, is morale. So Chicago, watching their city, I've got great friends on the Chicago Police Department, on the SWAT teams, and they are just like, you're tearing up my city. They have such pride, you know, in their city, and watching the looting and seeing that they can't arrest and their hands are tied because they're handling, you know, the riots and everything else, and leave the looters alone and leave this alone, and coming down from the mayor, and you know, such disrespect to police.
No, Lisa, so does the NYPD.
Yeah.
We interview some of the greatest people that ever worked for the NYPD on this show. And just a couple of weeks ago, we had Chief Louis Anemone, who is a legend, not just in New York City, but throughout the world as an expert on disorder control.
Uh-huh.
He's cringing when he sees what's going on. but their hands are tied by the mayor.
They're
So
tied.
they can't do anything, you know? And the chiefs at the top, they're not free to, you know, set in motion the techniques that Louis Animone invented through studying all over the world disorder control.
Right.
So,
Why do these cities not want resolution? What do they have to gain?
I'm telling you, that's the reason why. Because they want people to get scared.
Yeah.
They want people to hire their own security, privatize security, and then this way they can unrid themselves. When you get rid of the municipalities or the bulk of it, you get rid of lawsuits. Privatized companies, they're only you know, they're covered for a certain amount.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you can only, and like they're gonna fight you the whole way. Look at Disney. Disney has its own police department. They got jails down there. You know what I'm saying? They fight you on every case. They're never gonna settle. So if you get involved in an incident, just think George Zimmerman. That's what I'm telling you. That's the future right there. That private place that he lived in Florida, he was one of those people.
Yeah.
So you know, if you think that you're gonna get you're gonna live in an environment where you're gonna be able to roam around, it's actually gonna be more closed off than it is now.
Right.
It's going to be certain parts of New York you're not going to be able to go down because you don't really have a business there. You know, why are you here?
well, it'll be like the no-go zones in some of these cities, like they have it in London and in France, where
Well, you know what?
areas you can't go into.
Think about this. In New York City, they're creating that congestion pricing from 61st to the water. $11 or something like that, $9 to get past a certain point. So now you're knocking off a whole bunch of people who can't afford to drive their private cars into the city.
Right.
Now, what's business hours in New York? It's a 24-hour city.
Right.
At 9 o'clock. And after 9 o'clock, guess what? The train don't stop. It goes from 96th Street to 42nd Street. That area is a residential area. The only way you can get off at a stop there is you're going to have to slide your Metro card, not to get in the train, but to get out.
Oh, wow.
That's what they're going to create.
Yeah.
It's going to way to limit the people that shouldn't be in a certain area. And that's just the way it's going to be. Especially we're already used to curfews now.
Taking away more freedoms, just taking them away and taking them away.
So everybody's secure because they're going to remember what happened.
Well, you get people that say, oh, no prisons, no jails. If there's no prisons and no jails, then the whole world is a prison or a jail.
You're right.
You're not protecting the populace from, you know, there is a bad element. There's a criminal element. People don't realize that. I love these young millennials like, oh, close the jails. They weren't in New York City 30 years ago when I could guarantee they'd have a gun stuck to their head at least once a year, taking the $20 they just made doing comedy, you know? So
let me ask you guys
this.
It's a kind of a serious question, but I mean, obviously both you guys in law enforcement, all the years, all your experiences, you've had an opportunity, I'm sure, to work with a guy that was not right in his head. I can attest to that. Okay. And when they were in violation, the way the unions protected them, I took issue with, because there were calls that I didn't want this Yahoo coming up and showing up and screwing up my call with the extra force and everything else. Mm-hmm. So, you know, in this situation with this Chauvin guy, just learning that he had so many things happen and there was no discipline along the way. Like, how does that get through the cracks? That's what kills me.
Yeah, well, you know, that guy was a nightmare, a boss's nightmare or another cop's nightmare. And, you know, I was a boss for 22 years. And if I had someone that was heavy-handed, first thing I would do is pull them aside and say, dude, what are you doing? You know?
Right.
And then if that didn't work, I would go to the commanding officer and say, this guy's got a problem. You know?
Yeah.
How many chances? You can't have that. You can't have that happen. You know?
Who was overseeing him and how many chances and why so many chances? So, I mean, that's got to be looked at for sure.
No, absolutely. Look, everyone agrees that there has to be some
check and balance.
Checks and balance. And law enforcement.
What do you do with that kid that was 4 days on the job? That was one of them. They're like,
worst.
That was his training sergeant.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what we do. You better watch. You better, you know, you're learning. It's awful.
I mean, I know we're going to go through this whole charade, but at the end of the day, you're going to charge that guy for being involved in something with 4 days on the job?
Right.
Well,
I think we got to go through the charade.
It's a whole. They just want.
I'm just saying we got to go through the charade. But he had 4 days on the job,
right.
And that was his train. There's no way that guy can go to prison.
Well,
just go any other fucking job in your whole life. Anything. You tell me one thing, you did it for 4 days, and you did something, unless you actually shot the person.
Right.
Come on, man.
Right. He would have been so intimidated by that guy telling him what to do and everything.
4 days on the job, man.
Yeah.
Come on. Who are we kidding? I'll go through the charade with you, but at some point you got to say, listen.
And there is, and people have to realize that intimidating factor. When I was new and I had sergeants who, maybe were a little heavy-handed or whatever, I'm learning, okay, this is how you grapple with people, etc. Coming a little too hard on an ass, striking an area you shouldn't strike. You're watching, your heart's beating, you don't know what to do. Are you thinking in your mind, oh, I better go report my sergeant for doing that? No, you're scared to death.
Right.
You're scared to death because you don't know. You're still learning. You don't know if that's right or wrong.
Yeah,
I mean,
days on the job.
Well, in a deadly physical force situation, they can't make rules of how you fight. You're fighting to the death. And
exactly.
If trying to kill you, they can't tell you,
no,
can't do this, you can't do that. But in a regular situation, once the cuffs go on, it's over. There is no more force once the cuffs go on.
Right.
These situations, look, everyone spoke out against what happened in Indianapolis, right?
Everybody.
I mean, it was horrendous. But something, the reaction to it is way out of kilter. It seems like this thing was planned for,
It feels like that. I'm with you. My gut and heart of hearts feels as if this was planned somehow, some way, waiting for an opportunity to revolt.
Well, it's organized. It's so organized.
And we knew that when we found out with Antifa and everything else, they came forward and solicited and used their money, and you got them on tape with the money. Hey, go and do this. Here's the cans. Here's the bricks. Let's get out here and wreak havoc.
If you're waiting for an incident to pop off, we're talking about a country, 50 states. You don't have to wait too long. Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Then you get infiltrated by videos from other countries. Nobody knows what they're looking at. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're just watching. How can the average person tell which police department? So it looks like there's people shooting and cops killing people every day. They're using old videos, new videos.
Well, that's been going on before this whole revolt and riot, where we're watching networks show up with old video and saying, oh, this is what's happening right now. No, that's from a year ago and that's in another country.
Right, exactly. The media is shameless. They're horrendous. It's in New York State, we have Cuomo, who's the governor. His brother's a talking head on CNN. Or he's an anchor. Excuse me, he's an anchor. He's an anchor that stirs up more shit than anything.
Yoga video.
Yeah. Yeah, right. But I mean, he stirs up shit. I mean, is that his job as a news reporter?
No, they're like the National Enquirer. They're not news. They're not reporting news.
They're not news. I mean, I'd call him a journalist, and not just him. Many other people call him a journalist is really using that word loosely. Yeah.
It's entertainment.
What's the matter, Mark? You let me get on my soapbox?
So what are you up to now, Lisa?
So now I'm still doing my thing. I'm with the Law and Crime Network. Dan Abrams, the guy, Live PD just got canceled. I don't know if you know about that.
How ridiculous is that, right?
Yeah, what the hell is that?
What's next? Law and Order is, Blue Bloods.
Canceled 30-something year. Live PD canceled. Dan Abrams, he's the guy that put it all together and was getting out there and doing a great job. And he's got a network called Law and Crime. So I comment on trials and murder.
They got a lot of people petitioning that cancellation of the PD Live. So we'll see what happens. I always think it's like such a knee-jerk reaction or kowtowing. Like, what are we doing right now?
Right.
No, is that going to make a difference at all? The whole
it becomes so
Mark was on. He was on the show The FBI this year as an actor.
Oh, great, Mark.
We're both veterans of that show, The Perfect Murder. With a recreation. Mark was on it. I was on it a bunch of times. But that show was canceled, and that show was doing really well. It was getting over 1 million per episode, but they still got canceled.
Yeah, but
I thought once I was on, I would become an idol, like at least a matinee idol or something.
But they didn't cancel it because of this.
No,
Was,
that was way before that. But I was saying that was a reality show that was doing really well, and it still got canceled.
but they canceled this this cartoon that is for kids about, you know, it's like a truck that's a cop or something. It's so stupid. People are retarded. They really are.
And loosely Batman, get rid of him because he worked with the cops too much. Superman, get rid of him too.
The stupidity that gets involved.
Oh my God!
And scared everybody is. Like, what are you so scared of? You know.
And then they're ripping down statues of American icons.
Right.
The heads off them, dumping them in the.
Wanting to rename military bases.
Let's reinvent the wheel too. Let's reinvent.
Well, it's about the whole thing is about creating an alternate history.
Right.
I'm not sure. Like, you know, young people have to find their place in the society, and you know, this history, it's embedded, and they don't want to follow it. So then, rather than learn about it, that takes. I'm consumed with politics right now. I don't want to learn about the history. Let's just take it down. We'll put up our own.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, you know, even if it was a shameful statue, it's a place you could take your kids and you say, look, you see this motherfucker right here? This is what he did. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know, it's you learned a lesson from it, you know?
No,
well, yeah, they say anyone ignorant by their past, they may need not expect to make their future great. I don't know if I said that exactly right, but that is a quote from a famous historian. Anyone ignorant of their past need not expect to make their future great, because if you don't know history, you're destined to repeat it, right? Because we learn from history.
Exactly.
Right?
That's why, you got Holocaust deniers, you've got, all these groups and organizations like, oh, it never happened. Oh no, that many people.
Our history in this country is horrible. You know, a lot of people could say and argue it was founded on slavery. That's how we built it.
Right.
And you know, these African Americans who went and fought in every single war were promised something. The country never came through. The country also went out of their way to make sure that they destroyed everything they try to build up on their own.
Right.
So in some way, we got to make that good. But at the same time, you know, the police right now are the ones that are, you know, are getting, the government has a way of deflecting their responsibility. We're culprits.
Oh, yeah, Mark, you're absolutely right. Every one of these democratic cities is a shitstorm with crime. The politicians should be blamed, not the police. The politicians are the ones.
We're culprits because we work for them. Our whole job description changes on who's in charge of the administration.
Falls under that leadership.
Whenever something goes bad, what are you gonna do? You're gonna blame it on the cops, because that's the first. That's your closest thing you'll ever come to government is the police. So we're gonna take the brunt of it. But this time it just keeps going and going and going and going. You know.
Yeah, it slices both ways, because I know with the city, and knowing that there was an opportunity to have the National Guard go in, just dealing with the shootings before any of this stuff even happened.
Right.
You know, and then it was denied. No, we don't need the National Guard. So you're like, okay, so you've got a certain amount of police officers that need to go and take care of the ghetto and the shooters, and they know cop cars, they know the undercover cop cars. Police want to stay out of there and not want to do the enforcement because they know that they're just waiting for, a pot shot to take them out any second. So now we want extra reinforcement with that. No, we don't want that. Well, guess what? Now that area is not going to be patrolled because a cop wants to go home to his family.
Lisa, you know what amazes me? What amazes me, and I see it all the time in New York City, cops still go out and get guns off the street. Even with all of this crap happening. They're still doing their job, even with all this crap happening. And then the government wants to arrest them for doing their job. It's outrageous, Let's move on to motivational speaking.
All right. Cujo needs to go now.
So Lisa's going to talk a little bit about motivational speaking and how she became a motivational speaker.
I'm not a motivational.
You think you could? You
Does
think
it
you
say
can
it's
motivate
somewhere?
Mark and I to do something different? You think you can motivate us to get us on get our show to a national platform?
You need to be more uplifting, Bill. That's the thing.
We try. Some shows are more uplifting than others. You know?
No, comedy's good. More comedy, more comedy. No.
But you studied with.
Oh, but the thing is, that's why I said my biggest concern is the morale of the police right now, not wanting to do anything, just want to sit on their hands, do their 8 and skate, and just look the other way when they see something going on for fear of.
But that's somewhat what they're being told to do. They're somewhat being told that in many different ways.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's
fund, no overtime.
I say get God and get therapy. I mean, what else? What else?
Let me tell you something though. In all honesty, with the advent of the cell phone and the recording, there was never an adjustment, made towards the way we police and the way we apprehend people. And in the not too distant future, that's not going to be our problem because we're going to have other type of aids. We'll probably be working with some type of robot or something. That'll be your partner.
You let the robot beat the shit out of the guy, then they can't sue him.
Well, the robot will just be somebody that you go, okay, arrest
Sir,
him.
put down that gun.
You'll have a thing on your arm, and you'll just be like, okay, arrest. And then you're gonna point out the person that you want to arrest, and you'll press stun, and the robot will stun him. And you go over there and cuff him. That's what's gonna happen. We're in a huge transition right now. We don't know, everything looks worse than it really was on camera, and if you're looking for any type of police brutality, you can find it, even if it's from somebody raising their voice. Well, why did he have to raise his voice? It's like there's no wins.
Body cameras even, they do check you for using foul language. Shit, I would have been putting
No kidding.
There's a way to get someone what you want to do.
Bill, there was an experiment that one of the networks did. I don't remember which one it was, but they actually had journalists go out there and put him in shoot, no shoot scenarios with pulling somebody over. What would you do? Right. These journalists, they lit these people up.
Oh, of course they did.
Them up. Like, oh, now I get it. Okay, now I get it. I think that's the kind of stuff that needs to be on TV and shown over and over so they can be embarrassed when they decide that they're going to play armchair quarterback and decide what the cops should or shouldn't have done.
They get it, but they'll still be shit stirring the next night,
Yeah. I was on the Clearview Expressway last week. This is like in the middle of the riots. I see a car on the side, an RMP, a cruiser. He's got his radar and he's looking for speeders. I'm like, in the middle of all this shit, you're looking for fucking speeders. You're still like, really?
Oh my God.
You go back to your normal life that bad? That's the hypocrisy. That's the stupidity of all of this.
Right.
You don't even need to make car stops anymore. With the traffic light that if you blow, you get a red light ticket, or if you're speeding down certain streets, you could put the stripes on the highway, figure out if somebody's speeding. How many cops' lives around the country could you save? Because that's one of the most confrontational situations you'll ever get into is the car stop. Now, obviously, if you see somebody and they look like they're drunk driving, you'll stop them. Right. If you see one of these
Mark,
cars,
I'm going to pull you over.
You see one of these cars zigzagging, you know what I'm saying, driving like an asshole, 100 miles an hour on the highway, you'll stop that guy. But for the most part, we don't have to do car stops anymore. We don't have
Mark,
to.
Detective Pat said, "Is this the new live PD?" Yes, it is.
There you go.
Live PD show.
So yeah,
all the old audience for live PD, come on, join us here.
Really, right? Yeah, definitely.
We're gonna miss you, live PD.
That's right.
No, I think they'll be back.
They'll be back.
It's a knee-jerk reaction. You get people have to sign that petition, tell them that they want to watch people get locked up and beat up, and that's how they spend their time.
People are asking for Detective Pat to come back on the show. They liked when his button was blowing on his uniform because he gained a few pounds.
Oh.
It almost became ballistic.
So where are we right now?
Right now, we were asking her about a new career. What you doing? You know?
Yeah, so that's what I do. I do commentary, and then I put out some safety articles and little kind of 1-minute safety tips on video, and that's it. I mean, I'm a newlywed now because I divorced the Canada guy.
Oh my God! How many husbands do you have? You got your third husband? Oh, who's the new guy?
His name is Steve, and I call him John Wayne because he's like the most salty, funny guy. 6'3".
Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
220.
Let me ask you a personal question about Steve. Does he have big coin?
Dun, da, da, da. Can you see that?
Where is he? Oh my God, that's where you live?
That's right.
You just answered the question. You're in California now?
Yeah, I was in LA, but now I'm on the island here.
What does Steve
He does
do?
well. He does well.
What does he do? What kind of work?
He's an engineer, and his business is in Colorado, so oil and gas.
Wow, he's making big.
Oil and gas. He's doing all right.
I would show you my outside, but I live in the Bronx, and if I go out there with my laptop, somebody's probably gonna steal it.
That was some view she had there.
Yeah, man. Listen, my life sucks. I'll tell you that.
Maybe she can give you a motivational speech from a Tony Robbins repertoire.
Oh my God, my life sucks so much.
Stop it.
There's a difference between
exercise, eat good.
There's a difference between being a beautiful girl and a beautiful guy. She's a beautiful girl. Look at what she wound up with. I'm a beautiful guy. And this is what I wound up with. I got laid a whole bunch. Oh, for any girl I ever wanted my whole life, but I got nothing.
You look out your window and you see the guardian angels practicing. She looks out and she's got a beautiful seaside villa there, right?
I'm going to tell you guys right now, it was a blind date, and we only spoke on the phone. So
hey, this was a blind date too.
It was the conversation, okay? That was a conversation that got the date.
But Lisa, this was a blind date too. Look how fun this has been.
Yeah, that's true.
I know, right?
Now, you were just on Jay Wiley's national radio show, right?
Was I?
Law Enforcement Today?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was. Yes.
See, I have to interrogate you.
Thank you. I was.
How was that?
It was great.
He's a nice guy, that guy. He's a
He is.
retired Baltimore sergeant.
He's a real good guy. I was in.
Yeah. I'm going to try to get him on this show. See if he's not as pretty as you. So
let me ask you something. So, like, what is your day like now? Like, what the Pilates instructor comes up? What time does the Pilates instructor come? And
when
then,
you stack the $100 bills, is there a
Quarantine
certain area
exercise.
you put them in?
I've been on pandemic quarantine, doing my exercise and writing my articles, talking to my family in Chicago. I got a new baby niece I'm going to see next week. I got my stepson just had a baby. It's all the FaceTiming and loving up. And
isn't that an amazing thing about like how somebody's life can be so great and how somebody else's life could suck so much? It's an amazing thing about life.
Attitude.
No, listen, I remember working in
situations, and you still make it fun. You still make it good.
Listen,
you can put me anywhere. You
I
can
remember
put me in a
working
your 10 by 10 freaking apartment, and I'm still gonna be happy.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm just saying it's a weird thing. Like when I was in the police department, at some point towards the very end, I was in the training unit.
Yeah.
I wasn't really doing police work. I was just doing instructing. And I remember Occupy Wall Street was going on, and we were watching it on TV. And it was kind of sort of, it wasn't like now, but it was for the first time that this kind of stuff was going on. It was kind of sort of shocking.
Yeah.
So the two guys I was with were like, hey, you want to take a ride down there? And it was like not to take a ride down there and get involved and do police work, just to check it out. And we were on the same job. There was people there that were like, in the shit and like getting everything that you see, getting abused by the protesters.
Right.
And then I was on the same job and I was watching it on TV, working. So that just goes to show you what a difference life can be. It's just such a subtle thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Some
But you
people,
know what it is?
so
One
much.
day, we all experienced walking away from the towers on 9/11, and we were the biggest heroes in the world.
Right.
That lasted about 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
I'm
and then it
telling
was
you,
back to you guys are
I
still
brought that
after.
same thing up, Bill. I did. Because I ran New York City Marathon that following year, right after 9/11.
Yeah.
And man, oh man,
Which husband were you with then?
NYPD actually gave me,
No, Lisa, I said, which husband were you with then?
I wasn't married. I wasn't married.
Oh,
I was
so there
single.
was no number. There was no number yet attached to
I
your
was in
husband.
between. I was in between.
I'm between husbands.
But NYPD gave me a shirt to wear for that because I got hooked up through the charity. So I'm running proud as can be, pretending I'm NYPD,
Right.
with the shirt on. Everybody's cheering me. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, what a beautiful,
Felt
time.
good, right?
It was a year after, 9/11, but it was just like, this is amazing to have that much respect and to know, and everybody just, wanted to do good. And the next thing you know, one bad video comes out. Here's the thing. Did you interview James, the former FBI with James Gagliot?
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to. I haven't been able to get him, but I'm going to.
He came up, one of the statistics that I loved when he was first interviewed after all of this, he's like, listen, cops have 250 million interactions per year on the job, okay? Out of those 1,000 shootings, 30 to 40 are bad shoots. Bad 30 to 40 of they're like, hey, they're questionable. Out of all those interactions and everything else, it's like, look at those statistics. Like, my God, bad shoots or, questionable shoots. He says it's a small number out of the 30 to 40.
Yeah.
But
Any
they're
other profession, go to the medical profession, you see if they have as good of a average as that.
What you're doing right now is you're talking about the science of it.
Yeah, the data, the real data.
The science of it, it's only convenient when we want to quote the science of it. When it was time to keep everybody at home, we were really on the science of it. And then now when everybody wants to protest and hundreds of thousands of people are being in the street, it's okay. Don't worry about the science.
Don't worry about it anymore. Yeah.
It's such a big crock of shit.
It is. Somebody sent a meme to me and it was, hey, you can go to a family barbecue in a backyard with 10 people and protest up to 100. It's like, okay, well, I'm having a protest in my backyard.
That's right.
So it's like, what is this? It just makes no sense.
And it was so easy. All they had to do was say protest in place.
Yeah. There you go.
Just protest in place. Go nuts in your house. Come out at 7 o'clock, and instead of giving it up for the.
No, think about this. How many cops would have been on board and be part of off duty a peaceful protest because what they saw, they were so horrified by the evil of it. They would have been partners arm in arm out there doing the right thing and calling for change and wanting bad cops out of their job and wanting to make sure that guys that they work with that are heavy-handed are out of a job. They would be part of it and we'd be unified.
Right.
There was never a chance for that. There was never a chance.
They didn't want that to happen.
No.
That doesn't help their.
Well, they also, the whole narrative was that it was such a small percentage that was being violent. One night in New York City, they arrested 700 people. How was that a small percentage of people looting and being violent? 700 people got arrested.
Right.
That's more than a few people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they had Molotov cocktails thrown at them. They had bricks thrown at them. There was video of a lieutenant getting hit in the head with a brick. If he didn't have his helmet on, he would be dead. He still got a concussion.
Yeah. No,
but,
it's awful. The aftermath.
But the media chooses to play the video of the cop pushing someone down. Right. Not the cop getting hit in the head with a brick. And they didn't police it correctly either. All the toys the NYPD has, they didn't use horses at all.
Wow.
No horses. They didn't
get injured out there. So at some point, one did. Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
A horse in another city got hit in the face with a brick.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, you know what? Listen, if you're a horse, man, you got like 4 options. You could be in the circus. You could be on a racetrack. You could be on a farm, or you could be a police horse. And nobody wants to be a police horse.
Yeah.
They get drafted
with a brick. Come on, man. Don't hit the horse. Why are you hitting the horse?
No horse wants to be a. Well, does a dog want to be a cop? Does a little canine? Does the dog want to be canine?
Freaking dog is back.
It's not like
I got guests out here. You know, they want to swim and do their thing, and she wants to see what they're doing. And
Oh.
It's not. Listen, it's not like the horse took a police test. You know.
yeah, I know. I'm with
It's not like he was like. He got screwed. Now he gets screwed again.
No, but even some of the other things they didn't use the helicopters. They didn't use drones. Drones could have told them where the groups were going before they got there. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
They didn't use any of those things because the mayor wanted a soft touch. That's what he said. He wanted a soft touch.
Look what it got him. Look what it got him.
You know, it's all, if you think of the grand design, it's all in that thing. That's my theory. Get people scared, get people into thinking they need more security, get people into hiring their own security. This way we can downsize the police department. You know, and that's the move right now in the big cities. It's to privatize. They know the people that live in the big cities can afford it. They want them to pay for their own security and leave the police department for the people that can't afford it. Yeah. And that's what it is. And the city won't be burdened with so top heavy with municipalities, the lawsuits that come along with it. They don't have to worry about jails. You mentioned you could privatize those again.
Yeah.
Well, we had Dr. Darren Porcher on. He said something about the inner cities being over-policed. And I had disagreed with that, saying, well, that's where all the shootings and the murders are happening. So do you want to under-police them? Because if you under-police them, even more shootings and murders.
Exactly.
But that's a term that they use now, over-policing.
Right.
Well, if you see what happens with under-policing, and you right in Chicago, those, you know,
that's under-policed, yeah.
That's exactly what they want. But to me, it's like you should be able to pick the type of policing you want. You know what I'm saying? But it always goes to who's your mayor.
Exactly.
They busted the morale of Chicago and Baltimore so bad that the cops don't want to get involved in it.
And they have been for years.
Yeah. Years. So
That's
where the change has to come in.
And it looks like New York is going the same way.
Well, listen, we've been at this for a minute here. What do you think, Bill?
Final thoughts?
Yeah.
You want to, Lisa, do you have anything you want to plug right now while we're still on the air?
Not really.
Nothing's up and coming?
No, nothing's up and coming. I mean,
no new husband you may want to shout out to? Not a fourth husband you may be able to...
I never asked you, how are they riding? Are they riding over there by the water there?
They had more of the peaceful protests out this way. No riots.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Are they riding on surfboards and jet skis?
Here's what they did, though. From the pandemic, they took the people off the water. It's like, there's nobody around you. Look at this guy. You got this guy out here. You see him?
Oh, my God.
Oh, man, look at that.
All right, so he's out there being peaceful. They're like, get off the water. You're going to get the corona. Like,
is your town still closed? It's not open yet, right?
Yeah, everything. No, the restaurants are open, 50% capacity. And we're waiting for the nail salon, and yeah, the stores are coming. The malls.
You don't look like you missed a haircut, so
I missed a haircut.
No, she said she knows how to dye it on her own.
It was this short when I started in March. Now it's here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I thought you were going to say when you started on the show tonight. All right, so let's wrap it up.
All right, gentlemen.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks
Lisa,
for having me.
You were a great guest. You're so funny.
Thank you.
Wish you the best of luck. You've had a remarkable career, life. Wish you the best of luck. Bill?
Lisa, thank you so much. I mean, our initial interaction was bad, but we've made a negative into a positive.
It was funny, man.
I hope I didn't cut off I didn't get us on Facebook Live right away. I may have missed the first 7 minutes, so I may have missed that story. Just maybe I'll tell
what? Listen, Lisa.
Was that? I'll tell it quickly. I'll just say that she said something and I got triggered, like choked my child, and I said, what? Anyway, everything wound up good. And here she is on a show. She was a great guest. And hopefully
I can
maybe
teach good things.
you'll come back on the show another time.
I would love to. Thank you, guys.
Hopefully we'll get you into New York. When you come to New York, we'll get you in studio.
I like it. Yeah, I saw your in studio videos. They're great.
Yeah, they just did a new studio for us.
Shoulder to shoulder. That works.
Yeah.
All right. God bless you. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Police Off the Cuffs After Hours signing off.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.